Oh yeah, I'm definitely. But I want to hear the original. I want to hear my song before I even get the energy on this. So the world doesn't get it mistaken.
Pop my collar, you know what I mean? I'm living in a spaceship, trying to earn my spaceship. Living in a matrix. Pop my collar, you know what I mean? I'm living in a spaceship, trying to earn my spaceship. Living in a matrix. Just slide it out. Just slide it out. Clap your hands, everybody. Clap your hands. Everybody, clap your hands. Come on. Pop my collar, yo, what I mean? I'm living in a spaceship, trying to earn my spaceship. Living in a matrix, my collar, yo, what I mean? I'm living in a spaceship, trying to earn my spaceship. Living in a matrix. Is it me, or do we all have dreams? Believe in yourself, achieve anything. We are about to rise on the blocks, hustling, working 9 to 5. I be Queen Khalifa surfing. Not a goddess, why you working? Swerving down them lanes, bending corners, reality change. God of the music, time for a change. Hop back your mind, knowledge to the brain. Sick with the flow, you can make it rain. Delete all your fears, life is just a game. My collar, you know what I mean? I'm living in a spaceship, trying to earn my spaceship. Living in a matrix, my collar, you know what I mean? I'm living in a spaceship, trying to earn my spaceship. Living in a matrix, we are energy, so we will never die. Chasing the God, touch planets and stay high. Original design, ooh, I'm so fly.
All aboard! It is time to hop aboard my spaceship, cause you are now tuned into What is the Matrix TV? And I am behind 3D virtual reality. I'm your host, Jason Elm Street Williams, master of the universe. And today we're going to get into the mystery mazes of Riverside, California, and what is Kemetic Reiki and healing. But first, let me introduce my co-host for the evening, JoJo the Great.
How's everybody feeling today, man? How you feeling, Brother Jay?
I'm feeling great, brother. I'm feeling amazing. I'm excited to talk about healing. I'm excited to talk about Riverside County and California history. So let's get into it. What is Kemetic Reiki and healing? And when we say Kemetic, we mean ancient Egyptian, Tamare culture, African culture, or world culture. So right here, let's get into not just sound healing, but the touch, to when we had a science that they call today Reiki or Reiki healing, to when you could use certain tones, frequencies, and breath work to touch people and heal them. So what do you think about that, JoJo? Does that sound similar today when we see that our ancestors had buildings to where that they learned and practiced healing through the hands and sacred arts for thousands and possibly millions of years? And then today we see institutions such as the church, the pastor laying hands on people and supposedly putting the spirit of particular deities in them. And then their particular chief god that they say went around healing people by touch. But when we look at
yes, I believe that, man. That's without a fucking doubt, man. I personally have did a lot of healing myself, and I really do believe that just with tonality and with all of those ancient ways of healing, man, that's why they use music and they use these bells. And when people would sit around these little gongs and they would just let them radiate through their feet and it would go through their body, and just that within itself would cure the body of cancers. It would cure the body of so many diseases and flesh-eating bacterias, man.
Explain further. When you're talking about the gong and everything, we have some pictures right here of sound bowl meditation and sound healing, just like this,
check
ladies
this.
and gentlemen.
So check it out. That exact thing in your hand, man. It used to be a wonderful way. They would hit a gong just like that, but there would be a big one that people would stand in the center of it. So when they would stand in the center of it, the actual wah, wah, wah that would radiate through their body, it would heal them. And that's not the only way, as far as, you know, on this actual earth right now, you also can heal people with love. You can heal people with divine, I guess you could say, interception from your ancestors. Go pull up those pictures I sent you, or the video, I guess you could say. So for those of you who don't know, you guys, I personally, I have over the years I've witnessed, I had a divine way of healing. That right there was myself. I was 18 and I had got hit a couple times and I got kidnapped, and it was a whole long story. But that right there was a picture on a good day, and I had too much heat. I had too much swelling in my mind and stuff like that, and it was a hemotomia. So to this day, I still have the scars. But after that, I was a paraplegic, or I'm sorry, a hemiplegic. I couldn't move. I couldn't talk. I couldn't do any of that. Hit the next slide. I was just stuck in the bed like that, man. So my hand, when it was holding that, someone had to come over and move my hand to hold the oxygen to the hand. So at that time when I died, man, it was like my ancestors that came down, just like you were talking about that healing. And it was like these these different abilities, man, to where I was really able to recover from that. So then after that, when I got better, you can play the video now. The ancestors came down, and mind you, I don't have a doctorate, I don't have a degree or nothing like that. But in these pictures right here, that was when I started to actually like get these like downloads from the ancestors to teach me how to heal. Now I didn't believe it was
Talking about
possible.
the wall.
Yep, yep.
So you were saying that you were hearing that while you were in your coma?
So what happened was when I was in my coma and I was seeing and talking to deities and stuff like that, there was times to where I would ask to go to certain places, and it was like they were doing spiritual constructive reconstruction on my body. So like where you see me like that, look at my face now, you guys. There was no explanation for how your face, it was like, dude, on a bad day, I wasn't even supposed to be here. My eye had an eye patch on it. This whole side of my face was like dented in. And this picture here was after they had pulled out my cheekbones and stuff like that. So it was like at the time when I was in my coma, man, the deities and all the other spirits and whatever you want to call them, they were just doing reconstructive on my body. Even the doctor, when he came to talk to me, he was like, bro, I didn't do that surgery. Something was like possessing me. Straight up. For a doctor to say that, man, that's like him admitting I'm not responsible for you coming back like this. So then when I woke up from the coma, I had all these like these unnatural abilities. I just learned how to play the piano. I learned how to heal people. It was strange, man.
We're gonna go back to those pictures, but when we talk about deities, y'all, I'm not sure exactly what deity. We'll go into detail and ask you, but right here, when we talk about sound healing, and sometimes when you hear ringing in your ear, are these actual buildings that you see that I visited while we were in Kemet. For me, they were sound healing centers, actual ancient machines that healed what would probably today call cancers or older cells. So when we hear about our ancestors living 300 years, thousands of years, are never dying, we can see why. Imagine, okay, JoJo was speaking of the sound baths and the sound bowls that are to the public, to where you could stand in the middle of sound bowls or go into dome-like geometry structures that are perfectly created, that we'll get into like in places like Palm Springs, California, and Joshua Tree, California, all located in Riverside County, California, and San Bernardino County. So when we talk about these sound healing centers, imagine our ancient sound healing centers right here. So what you see these pillars were, we're going to get into it. Right here, we see the Jed pillars, DJED. And for me, these are machines. So when I was in Egypt, Tamaré, or Kemet, I took pictures, and I also was downloading and uploading my experience on what I was seeing, not just looking at it as a tourist.
What did you see?
I'm taking right here these pictures that I'm showing you. So right here, for one, look at the centerpiece. What do you notice blatantly knocked off and chipped away?
The nose.
The nose and face, right?
Yeah.
Why is it that out of all the parts of these hieroglyphs that we see, and we see melanin in their skin, and clearly it's a melanin of an African Nubian person?
Identity of tribe.
Well, there you go. So basically, we see a deliberate destruction of ancient artifacts with the face. Why? Is because I'll theorize is that one day they plan to paint over these ancient hieroglyphs. There you go. And they will paint these people with pale skin and different face structures
with pointy noses.
With pointed noses to manipulate history and create a false timeline. And this is why they're using these machines to travel through time. So one day, because they're already doing it with the days and the numbers. So basically, right now, when you go to Egypt, a lot of the statues, the noses and lips are already knocked off. For in the day and time, they create an event to where, let's say, there's destruction. And
hey, hold on, real quick.
Wait, 40 years from now, after the reset, they reconstruct these statues and they're able to teach the future kids that these people weren't African people. But go ahead, JoJo.
I was going to say, so to slow that down for the panel and everyone who's watching, when I said identity of tribe, certain tribes, from if you were from the Khoikhoi tribe or if you're from this tribe, you have facial identity features. So when you knock off the nose or you knock off the identity, it not only knocks away the story of who was involved, but it actually takes away what actually really happened. Just by taking off the facial structures, you have these hieroglyphs, but you don't have the full story, because that nose could have been, that's why I was going like this, because the nose was identified on what tribe you belong to.
Exactly. And then to the right, you guys, we're at the Temple of Hathor right here to the right. And once again, you see her with dreadlocks. You see the wrapped up dreadlocks, JoJo, if you look closely to the picture. And remember, these were colored. All these statues were colored with rubies. So they snatched either the rubies and emeralds off, or they acid washed these statues so you couldn't see the pigment color of the statues. You feel me? But through the hair, and like JoJo said, the nose, but look at the way her ears are. Does that look like a humanoid trait?
It looks like those ears. You remember Jar Jar Binks?
No, explain.
You remember off of Star Wars, it was the one who talked like this, and it looked like a dog or something like that, but its ears were particular and exactly just like that.
Everyone watching this, look up the Syrians.
I think
those from the Syrian constellation, because we are not alone in the universe, and there's humanoids who look just like us, but with this smaller, different features. Maybe more pointed ears, different, a little nose. Some were blue, some were green, some were even pitch black. So look at that. Once again, proof for me of extraterrestrials, but of a melanated origin, because you clearly see the dreadlocks in our nose. Once again, proving that we're not alone. So right here, we see artifacts. We see that they dig up actual artifacts like we would call toys, like Toy Story. Only an advanced civilization could create this. Yet in K through 12, we're taught that the Europeans had the most advanced civilization. Today, we're being taught through AI and through certain European leaders that we're headed forward, when all actuality, we're being de-evolved. When we look to the past, we see that we as African people, indigenous Aboriginal people, had geometry, clearly calculus, astronomy. We were able to take certain minerals from the ground and shape and mold them, which means we had machines. Look at the intricate design, Jojo. Do you think that was done with simple hand tools or machines?
Lasers.
Go into detail on what you think.
So this is really about to be a crazy ass episode, you guys. So when I died, I had this deity, and the deity would, first off, it wasn't like the movies. It was like I greet this deity, and she's kind of like, "Where are you here? Are you afraid of me? What's wrong with you?" Blah 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 blah. And she gets into the details, and I start asking her, "Can you bring me to these places?" She says, "Where do you want to go?" I say, "Well, I want to know the truth. I want to know the truth about blacks. I want to know the pyramids. I want to know this." So I had time didn't exist at that time. So she explained to me a lot of the stuff to what you're looking at and those those advanced societies and shit like that. It was lasers. Lasers that were so strong it can literally cut a mountain in half. There wasn't no, we have to chip at it and do it the manual labor. We learned that from the Slavics. The Slavics taught us manual labor, but in actuality we had lasers and advanced technology. I mean, how do you explain the pyramids being so laser cut dry? Nothing. We don't have the technology to be able to do that.
Well,
They
look at
didn't
right
build that, they
here,
just stopped
y'all.
it.
Peace and love to Brother Crib Jesus for tuning in with us.
What's up, Crip? How you doing, Kev?
Your mic is muted.
Peace of divine family. My bad. Okay, yeah, we up in here, man. I'm just staying in my lane right now. Y'all got me blown away. I just came through. Then he came with the lasers, so I'm listening. But it makes perfect sense, the precision and the cleanness of it.
Correct.
The majority of all that stuff was just like advanced, like how Jason's saying, where our technology, we really are getting de-evolved. If you guys look at like how they cut diamonds with lasers, that right there is what we do in the present time. So if you were to make that a little bit bigger, you were to make that with 2 points of entry, and your geometry was able to have them perfectly in sync, you would be able to make these unordinary pieces of technology. And you notice how even in that, it has a laser shooting down the middle of it. So a lot of that electricity and those advanced technology, man, it really just had to do with the perfect points of entry and where to put the electricity at the like the perfect numbers in its proper order of sequence. So when it radiates those certain sounds and it talks about healing and it talks about divine intervention and things like that, when you talk about your when you talk about all of these different pieces of technology, not we in our minds, we think singularity. We think this one lighter just does one thing, but in reality you can use this thing 50 different ways if someone were to teach you to. So a lot of those unks and a lot of those pieces of technology not only could get downloads, it can heal you, it can make you smarter, it can move you from one point of entry to the other. When you start looking at the body and you start thinking in everything in the form of vibration, go get a microscope and go look into your hand and tell me, are you even real? Are you really a solid, or is it just a bunch of energy that's composed? And that's your, like he says, your avatar, this meat suit that you're in, that scientifically be able to be broken down, but the technology they had the time as far as healing and laying hands, like
There you
Anubis,
go.
he would put his hands on the chest and he would be able to raise the dead and do these things. He was supposed to be the ruler of the underworld, no?
Correct. And then
So his
also
ability,
Anubis right here.
so his ability to do that and that divine healing power that he was talking about, it's crazy. Even to this day, I was sharing with Jason earlier, man. When I came back down and that deity gave me all the tools on how to heal, pull up that video. And mind you, Crip Jesus, I am not a doctor. I did not have the certifications to what video you're about to watch me perform. Talk about magic. This is the magic that they hide from you, but it's all proof. That one right there. Do you have the one of uh him? This boy right here was in a coma for 9 months, went brain dead, was paralyzed. Push play. Working with this person for a year, my dude, we were able to touch and have so many divine interchanges, man. He would go to physical therapy, he'd go to a neuroscientist, a neurosurgeon, and no one really had the answers until he started to link up with his, what you could say, his equal in the spiritual plane. That boy went from a cripple inside of that chair to now he can full on walk. That guy right there broke his neck. He was paralyzed as well. And mind you, I'm not qualified, but you see me in the ICU, right? That divine touch that the ancestors, the divine touch that each ancestor gives us to heal these people. He couldn't move the day before, but he could move right here. He can't even grab the towel, you guys. So in that time that man was going through that, fast forward, he eventually started to do it more often, and I started teaching him how to move his body, the right stretches, touching his body in the right way, and eventually he can move. In this video, he's quicker. And this one, this guy took too much drugs. He was in a coma for 9 months. I'm losing my mind. So right there, as we're it's like y'all wanting play. So working with him, and mind you, that right there was just the equal. So when we're talking about divine touch, my dudes, I worked with those two people. There was more, but in that own time, the ancestors were able to give you the solutions for all of these curses that you think are permanent. That's not true, man. This is all a myth.
Wow.
Science.
Where do you feel, Crib Jesus, as far as natural healing and us having ancient centers back in the day, and us moving forward with having our own healing centers? Do you have any knowledge on Reiki healing or Moors when it comes to our own medicine and natural healing as we move forward?
Yeah, well, a lot of our sicknesses have to do with spells put on us, and we don't think of it like that because, you know, we're taught to look at everything as the physical manifestation that's there already. So, you know, we think of sickness as once you're, you know, coughing up mucus and all of that. We think of, and the cough is there and all of that, right? But these things didn't just, you know, happen out of nowhere. You're irregular at that point. You're out of ease, meaning that it developed, right? So then they use words like preventative, but it's not preventing. You're still focusing on the sickness there. It's being in your right state, right? So you see, whenever we're talking about the root word of natural is nature, right? So whenever we're dealing with nature and our natural selves, as far as with healing, and unfortunately in the Western world, that means to get sick and then fix, right? And that doesn't mean to be in the righteous state to begin with. But in healing holistically, in healing naturally, they call it holistic, right? And you see there the word holy. So this goes back to what the Christians that say Holy Spirit. So for them, they separate it from the self. And it's like you beg the Holy Spirit to help you, or maybe it comes up in you at church and you're hopping all around like a ghost. But if you go back, we just keep stripping away the words, right? So we just went from natural healing to holistic healing to Holy Spirit. Now, spirit comes from the Latin word is spiritus, which means breath. Now, some people argue and say, well, so what? Well, okay, word is a word, but it has a meaning behind it. So the meaning there is breath, because your breath, the words that you form in your breath and with your breath, they start off in your thoughts. So it's just like what's called the placebo effect, right? All this begins in the mind, right? Everything from what you're willing to eat, what type of environment you're willing to go in, what you're willing to expose yourself to, how you react to that exposure, how you feel it as it's developing. What is your reaction to that dis-ease you feel as it's developing? Do you panic? Do you get scared? Do you see people when the cancer comes, it has like almost 90% to do with your mind frame. And I've seen people where I have a friend that was stage 4, and then she started there was no healing her, and then she went, like we said, holistic, right? Now the holistic methods were her diet had to change, and she had to start working out. But we both know that your diet changing and you start working out is a process. So if you ask me, what really changed was the mind frame that gave her the drive to start working out and saying, you know what, I'm not eating that no more. I don't care how much I crave it. Like, it was that mind frame that push. You know what I mean? Because at that moment, with such a life altering situation, she had to tap in. So you was either going to make you or break you. You could either tapped into that break you spirit, like, and for some people that works for whatever reason. They use that and drive it a certain way. But
hey, Crip Jesus. So check it out, because I wanted to piggyback on the importance of what he just said as far as mind frame. So on those videos where you were seeing me working with that dude, spelling has a lot to do with it. Your breath had a lot to do with it. Because when I would talk to both of them, mind you, I had already been in that position. So when they see me over them, they see a healer. They see the final product of the potential of where they want to be. So my presence alone, because I did go through that head surgery and all of that tragedy, totally changed their mind frame. In the process of them changing their mind frame, their optimism became to get larger. And faith had a lot to do with it too, because I may not be a Christian, but that saying you need a mustard seed of faith really actually is more important than I think even an atheist thinks. Because where you put your mind, like Crib Jesus was just saying, where you put your breath, what you put into the energy, your expectations, all of that holds an energy. So when you have that energy and you're thinking to yourself, I can be like Crib Jesus, I can be like Jason, I can be like that. Your mind is already starting to switch. It's already starting to switch its direction on what type of healing. So that boy who was in a coma, his therapist usually talks to him in the formality of the what if. I talk to him in the form of, when are you really going to stop basically being a bitch? And he looks at me and he can't really argue with that, because he's like, I mean, shit, this nigga did it too. I'm gonna try now. So as he started to change, it was like the movie The Matrix. You guys remember in the Matrix when Neo started to break away from his ideas of not being the one? Do you guys remember that?
yes, that's when he started getting weak. Like, yeah.
He started getting weaker or stronger when he started to break away from his pre what he learned. He got stronger. And it was the same thing with healing, as far as like those old Egyptian mysteries and stuff like that. They always talk about your expectations, your vibrations. The vibration of weakness and sickness really is like, it's a disease.
Well, that's right here, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to put up a bigger picture of it. Spells to the top left, spells for eternity, the ancient Egyptian book of the dead. So right here,
I don't think when you take yourself off the screen, they might. Yeah, you gotta put yourself up there.
So spells for eternity, the ancient Egyptian book of the dead. So right here, we know that when we write down words, what do they call it?
Spelling.
Spelling. So just like both of our brothers were teaching, they actually, K through 12, teach us how to cast spells without us knowing the power of the sword, the tongue.
Curses.
So that's why they had us write in cursive, because we were cursing ourselves by the more we talk, because through the word, we create worlds. So we were creating fictitious worlds, double worlds, which create dreams because you go to sleep. And they have you on a Monday through Friday, 12 p.m. and 3 p.m. time cycle. So when you go to sleep, whenever you do, you go to sleep with those words and thoughts, and you create these worlds because you're in the multiverse. But when you come here, they kind of have it more programmed. versus the other worlds, you might be able to fly, you might be going through here. And when you come here, they teach you to forget. But through our Egyptian mystery schools, which are my stories, our stories, like he has his story, but our mysteries, we have the secret medicine of the Pharaoh. So in previous episodes, we were talking about the mushroom, psilocybin, psychedelics. When I'm in the temples of Tamaray and Kemet, you see them smoking a blue lotus. You see them giving them an Egyptian the magic mushroom, different psychedelics. When you're initiated into different cultures and schools of thought in Kemet, you'll have to go underground, under passages for 4 hours. Imagine being woken up in the middle of the night in Giza and then bathed in psychedelics for an hour, like taking a shower. And then you're put in the tunnel and having to go through different passageways, knowing certain tones, being able to chant, being able to meet beings that can read your mind, see your intent. And this is why you see in the middle, you see beings or Isis or Aset are different deities with wings, where we get the word Holy Spirit and the dove from. So right here, you also see the love connection between our brothers and sisters. But to keep it on the secret medicine of the pharaohs, look at the plants that you see in front of the falcon, which is Horus, which is you, when he's in his higher self. Look at the top of the sun disk. These are all schools, just like when you go to Harvard, UCLA, Los Angeles Community College, and then there's the math department, the science department. Now they're going to have the computer department. They have the botany department. So when you visit Egypt, you see the pyramids, right? But there's also the temples, but the temples are the schools, y'all. So you see them outside, like JoJo speaks of with our plants. So speak of how we were related with the melanin, with the planet, with plants, with photosynthesis. This is why our schools were outside. This is why they have us under fluorescent lights, under artificial lights, inside a classroom, learning things that are reprogramming you in melanated children who are classified as Black African American go crazy inside of these classrooms, not just based off of the paint that is full of lead, but the artificial light that disrupts people with melanin, sitting in wood desks, the spelling going from left to right instead of right to left.
Yeah.
So it's throwing you off balance. So imagine when we went to class and we were under the sun. These are our schools. These are what we must open. And so imagine in first grade, you're learning about different plant medicine. So by the time you're so-called 30 and 40, you're a botanist. And then from your 30s and 40s, instead of going to a BS social studies class, you're learning Reiki healing, to touch somebody when you travel to different lands who might be sick. Having different seeds, having different herbs, to go wherever you go with knowledge of self. And that's why you were revered as a god, because your human avatar can hold the most information, the most sunlight, the most Akashic records held in your body. Anyone else with less melanin and hair of wool will explode. So this is why they create artificial intelligence in these robots, because they're trying to keep up with you when we activate our DNA. They keep trying to tell us and convince us that the AI is more smarter than us. They're trying to convince us that the robots are smarter than us. That is a lie. They have to cheat. They have to create Facebook, MySpace, all these systems to steal all the information from all races, all creeds, to cheat when we are born with all the information inside of us.
Hold on real quick, hold on. So just to slow it down real quick for the panel, I want you guys to look around right now and just give a critical analysis from people. Their critical skills are not as sharp. Their awareness and situational behavior are not as normal. They do a lot of erratical things. As far as personality, you're basically living amongst majority clones. And that right there is just the side effect of what just a little bit of artificial intelligence has done for us so far. So for those of us who have common sense, and for those of us who are able to analytically dissect things from just a thought process, you don't understand, but that is a gift that was given to you and only you. A lot of us have this assumption that how we view the world is how everyone sees the world, and that is not true at all. We are all different in our own ways, but artificial intelligence has definitely played a large majority on why people around you are going to get dumber, 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 and dumber. I digress. Go ahead.
Just like the Jim Carrey movie, Dumber and Dumber, and they find the clue, right? But before we change it, I want you to see to the left. Look at the brother with the melanin, the Theban theology, the supreme wisdom of enlightenment, and the ancient mysteries of Amun. So when we talk about sciences, imagine us going to class for that growing up, and imagine by now what you would be capable of. This is what they fear. So these are what we're going to open. Spells like Brother Crib Jesus was saying, incantations, you are wealthy, you are happy, but also
and it's crazy because it sounds corny to most people, but those sounds are actually very, very true and affirmative. Like as far as healing, as far as on this plane, you guys just take this week and just say a lot of positive things. If you just say to a flower, I love you versus fuck you, I hate you, within a week, one will die and one will flourish. This energy and these vibrations that you speak and these cursives that you actually are, you're evoking are very, very real.
So right here, we were speaking of lasers and technology. So when we were taught that the non-Europeans were primitive and our people as so-called Africans lived in the Stone Age and only built in huts, right here in Africa, you see reminiscence of large induction coils. And right here, you see the pictures we have on the wall saying that you see today, copper winding on the shaft. So our hieroglyphs speak of ancient science, ancient technology, and machines right in front of us. Look in the middle, y'all. The Djed Unk pillar is the key to the Stargate, not just the yoni, which we call the vagina, but an actual sound device using electricity that we were able to harness to open up wormholes to other dimensions, which for I feel that I come from a bloodline that does not come from this dimension that they call Earth. And that some of us, when they blew up the Stargate, were trapped here. So there are some of us who are not of this world. And that's why some of us do have supreme intelligence. Some of us are born with certain gifts. And this is why they don't want us to activate 100% of our mind. It's okay to get 100% on their test. But what about activating 100% of your mind and coming together and learning to decode this? So right here,
just for clarification for the panel, you guys, a society that can give 100% of their thought can function and thrive without a gut. Think about that.
So right here, you see this technology that people look this at as hieroglyphs. But here, between the avenue of the sphinxes stood two generators, A and B. Each would be sending electrical frequencies. Between these two antennas and a soiltron or vortex field is generated. It is on the field that the heavy building blocks were carried. So the technology that the ancient Egyptian civilization possessed was mind-boggling. Many of the discoveries, some of modern scientists and inventors claim their own discoveries of today cannot even match those of 1,000 years ago. Examples are the batteries, electromagnetics, and the lights that are in the form of religious symbols. Two religious symbols, the Ankh and the Djed pillar, are believed by some researchers and authors to be the first lamp to be created. The Ankh, when connected directly to the jet pillar, was a battery and an electric storage device. When the two metal electrodes were added to the Ankhs and was modified, it was able to give off a light in the form of an arc. The arc is produced in the space between the two pillars. And as you see right here, it looks like a battery. Look to your right. So when you go outside, like the old telephone poles, right there, that's what you see. And so our ancestors left these advanced knowledge and information in the form of hieroglyphs and pictures. So
Hey,
we can
and for the Christian community, that right there is the Ark of the Covenant.
And that's the portal to what they want to call God. So we're going to have to come in a craft because they blew up the Stargate. So imagine how hard it is to find this time realm. They showed you in Indiana Jones' Dial of Destiny and Quantum Leap and Philadelphia Experiment how hard it is to reach the exact moment again in time when they time travel. But right here, you see proof that we are able to open up portals in dimensions through advanced technology. So right here, look at y'all. What do you guys think? So when you see the Temple of Hathor, and like JoJo was showing you with the sound bowls, imagine sound bowls that are going off, humming, hitting each other, that have electrical devices in them that are able to charge and spin. You're able to heal yourself. You're not going to die. And imagine activating 100% of your Merkaba and chakras start spinning. You're able to turn into different forms, able to disappear. And then when you materialize back into your form through that knowledge, you can heal people. And that's that worldwide.
That right there, what he's talking about, you guys, is what I was talking about earlier as far as your guys' temples. You're literally walking in a big ass fucking generator box right now. Like for every person who's alive, your body is just a generator. If you were to look from a microscope, it's just a bunch of atoms bouncing left and right. So when these frequencies change the frequency of your body, mind you, you can only manipulate your physical once you start to get scientific and you're starting to break down your guys' atoms, the way that they react to it. Just like when you say to a flower, I love you, the flower will thrive. If you say I hate you to it, it will die. Go watch it. It's on YouTube.
Correct. So it's a tone. And what is a god of ancient Kemet or Egypt? A tune, a tone. A tone or an atom structure is the god this Shu, which would be the proton. And Neut or next is the neutron. And Tefnut or Tefnut is the electron. So right here, you see us, you, in your past time you plugged into this matrix hologram, you writing sciences and creating sciences just like their books you can open up and learn again. It's just that they distracted you and gave you misinformation so you didn't learn how to decode this to destabilize your atoms, to learn who you are. So right here, we see the science of the atom was discovered by the Cometians, aka the ancient Egyptians. It was learned by the Greek students in Kemet, where you get the word chemistry from, Kemet. So the ancient gods and goddesses of Kemet, Tamare, Egypt, is simply the periodic table. So how brilliant is that? Instead of when you were in high school learning the atom and photon, left and right, and it confused you with someone speaking a certain way in tones, instead of putting it in a story form where you could learn about the universe in factual form through storyboard form that you could apply to your everyday life and wherever you travel. So the ancient Cometians understood this complexity of the atom, which they call the god Atum. This science was not rediscovered by Europeans until they stole it from artifacts in the Nile Valley, along with other ancient forms of technology. What do you guys feel about that when you learn that your ancestors, your lineage, created advanced chemistry in the form of story form, but you were taught that Europeans invented that?
Upset. Like what they say, you find out once you find out you're not free, you get free, it just makes you upset.
Now, what can you do with this information that you learn, as now, instead of people being spooked out when they say, oh, they're studying different gods, and now you're learning that behind that God is an actual science?
I think for the majority, first of all, you got to get comfortable with the idea that everything you predeterminedly already have conceived or have learned could be somewhat true, could be somewhat false. So when you start to educate yourself with the open mindedness that potentially what you previously have learned may not hold as much merit as you really would want, then you can have that mustard seed of faith to experiment with different types of science and different ways to explore self. Because mind you, it is your body, but the fact you cannot control it is still a conversation we should acknowledge.
I guess that's the beauty of being Crip Jesus. I dropped out. I didn't get exposed to certain things. I was never taught that chemistry came from white people. Actually, when I was first introduced to chemistry, I think that was the grade I stopped. I didn't like the way it presented it. But I like you know how it was like you dealing with science and you were able to manipulate the earth. So when I was first even curious enough to break the word down, it was presented to me from an Islamic perspective of just that word is an Arabic word, alchemy. Now that was presented to me as a European thing because alchemist is a European term. However, I was unaware at that time that there was our ancestors in Europe speaking Arabic, right? Moors. So alchemy and alchemist is where you see chemistry as we know it today entering into Europe and coming down to us. That's how we get that word, right? But here's what I found very interesting is that alchemy and alchemist is not a something they just threw together or just happened to be or is passed down. It's actually chemi. When you look at it, how it's translated into European languages through the Latin, right? So that's like the CHMI or MY. You see that in the French, Spanish, Portuguese. So the owl on the front is Arabic. So the chemi. So these were the Moors that actually introduced this science to them. You see what I'm saying? Because remember, in the Dark Ages, they didn't even have science for the most part. You get what I'm saying? Well, in Europe, I should say, the Dark Ages. So even the first medical books, the math books like Al-Muqabbala, Al-Jabbar, where they get the word algebra from, written by Muhammad Ibn.
Break that down, brother Craig.
That's where you get the word algorithm from the author of that book, right? So I see that basically it's a gap right there where they say the Dark Ages, but that gap is filled in when we start to see where these words came from, because this is when a lot of these words got introduced into their lexicon, you know.
With the AL, can you elaborate on that, please? Because when I say Kemet or Egypt or Tamare, a lot of scholars and professors do not acknowledge me playing with me, though, but serious, until I say Al Kemet. Instead of Egypt, I'll say Al Kemet.
Well, because
in algebra.
Because it's about the title. So meaning that when you say in Egypt, I know that you're speaking from a USA point of view, because even from a European point of view, I don't think they'll say Egypt necessarily. They may say Well, they will say Egypt if you're talking about the state of Egypt. But if you're talking about like all this ancient stuff we're talking about, they're gonna go a little. They might have a different type of title, right? But as far as the owl being on the front, uh, that's Arabic, and we all know that Egypt is they speak Arabic over there. It's for the Arabs. It's been like that for over 1,000 years.
Can you show your fez, please? Because when you're in Kemet, you see the pharaohs, some of
Yeah.
them with the fez. Even in the temple of Heru, which I was in, you see the falcon with the fez on its head, which is the
Yeah.
priesthood of Anubis, children of Anu, the most high priesthood, which meant the highest level teachers and professors of the land. And you see that right here once again in the hieroglyphs. Are you guys able to what do you guys read when you see these hieroglyphs right here? What does it speak to you?
Well, I see the Ankh being fed, if I'm not mistaken, that's eternal life, right? And the holy breath. So it's through the sinuses going in what we was talking about. Anubis leading them through with life. So if I'm not mistaken, this is this pharaoh being given new life. And Ra Seki Kemetic Raki. I gotta break that one down. That look like something to do with Aton, though.
I think it has three meanings.
Mm-hmm.
I think for one, the guy in the middle is the student. The one behind him is the one who's motivating them, and then the one in front of him is the one who's giving the final so as if you've arrived. And then if you look at it from a different perspective, from the dog, well, we know what that represents, but in different terminology, the dog, the wild animal, the wild beast, he then becomes a man, or at least a student. And then after a student, he's fed that chip to where then that's going to be his final outcome. So if you're reading it from it right to left, then that's what's happening. But if you read it from right to left, then what happens is that first form was the high priestess, who then became a pharaoh, who then showed up to be Anubis, and that right there was his older self helping the younger self. As far as how Egyptian tales go and things like that, is as far as my knowledge go.
I love it.
Well, I know that the dog head, that's Anubis, I believe. He's like the god of the afterlife and mummification and all that type of stuff.
And that's us. And you guys, when we say the gods, these are priesthoods. Not only will people say that these beings existed at one time, and then eventually we wore the mask to represent that particular priesthood, like a mascot, just like each professional team has a mascot. But also when we see Anubis, Anpu, Anu, Nubians, we also refer to it, like Crib Jesus was saying, embalming. So we had the sciences of embalming cadavers. So you talk about in Africa, we were performing surgery. We were able to take the brain out and preserve it in honey. We were able to take the organs out. We were performing brain surgery. So we were doing spiritual, physical healing through the hands, through herbs, and physical brain surgery, dentistry. And so, yes, the Ankh of life, the tree of life. You see the blue lotus by their feet in the background, which is a psychedelic. So right here, you see many different schools of thought, which we go to Tahuti, which is simply schools of thinking, all rolled into one hieroglyph. You even see the serpent. So in the middle, you see the cobra. So let's go to that.
Hold on, real quick. Brain surgery before we skip past that.
Okay, yeah.
So, mind you, I had 4 brain surgeries, right? So at one point in time, literally where my head gets cracked, I forgot how to talk. I forgot how to do all the normal things. I forgot how to walk, how to move your hands. Like, dude, you can't even wipe your ass. You literally are shut down, and the brain is then led by the spirit. The spirit has to then go into a driver mode to where it's like you're telling the brain, I'm going to survive. It's going to be cool. It's going to be cool, to where you're really having this spiritual wrestle with your physical brain that's being led by your imaginative spirit on the lower end. So unless your mind changes, It's direction as far as what's going to be the next chapter. Usually you're going to fall into that same little small majority. When I asked the doctor, hey, how many people, what do they say after this? And he was like, bro, you're literally the only one who's ever came back from some bullshit like that. Not a lot of people can get clapped in the head, ran over by 3 cars, and then jump out of a car doing 65, and then they come back and then they tell the story. That's a fucking lie. There's a small majority who can do that kind of shit. So for the mind to be able to, after brain surgery, after it's being broken down and stuff like that, it then goes through its reconstructive period. The reconstructive period is literally when the brain is like Legos. When it's broken, you can literally move whatever pieces you want to build whatever it is that you want. So in the Egyptian cultures, when they would have diseases, they would have mental brain thing, they would perform these type of rituals a lot more than people would believe. That's why you don't really hear a lot about mental insanities in that time, because there was a solution. They didn't have Vicodins, ADHD pills. They didn't have benzodiazepine and Xanax to slow you down and make you stupider. They had real life fucking solutions.
Listening. Keep going, JoJo.
Oh, my bad. Anywho, so at the time when my brain was coming back, I started changing like everything you do, from as far as your beliefs, from as far as what you're doing, from as far as to what you want to get comfortable doing. And you have to literally take that time to redefine what you would believe to be your physical self. So believe it or not, your imaginative self really does most of the work. When you're see these people who are broken down, they're in comas and stuff like that, they're very, very much alive. And the Egyptians priorly knew that. That's why a lot of the time when people were put into these medically induced comas on purpose, they would hit their bodies with bells, with things that would enhance them to when they woke, they would literally be a new man.
A new best. So right there, y'all, like JoJo, when you're in the hospital, you see the doctor or the nurse looking over you. It's a priesthood. When you learn about the priesthood in modern times, they have to take the Hippocratic Oath, which is from Imhotep, the first documented doctor to perform surgery. So look up the word Imhotep. But truly, it's not just a person, it's a title, meaning a group of doctors. So there were groups of surgeons who had mystery schools or schools. So just like when you go to college, when you go to a certain university, when you go to medical school, there's brain surgeons, there's psychiatrists, there's also the pharmacy department with certain things, so different levels. So
and
right
one more
here,
thing to piggyback what Brother Jason's saying, you guys, mind you, at that time when he's talking about, Egypt was a civilized society, and it was advanced because people played their roles. Not all of them were like what he's talking about. There was regular shoe men, there was shoe shiners, there was people who would tame your horse, but people, as far as in the mystery schools, only were initiated because that was their actual job. It wasn't just like, can you talk a little bit more on that, Brother Jason?
yeah, we will definitely go ahead. So right here, when we talk about the healing aspect, I wanted to compare the ancient hieroglyph to a modern day type of depiction. So it would show how the sisters and like you, JoJo, were able to practice this art. So if that answers your question, you're able to use our ancient cultures and our ancient arts through hand healing, through knowing certain tones and frequencies to heal ourselves. This is why they don't want us to open up our own hospitals, our own medical clinics, because we will not use their pharmaceutical drugs. We'll utilize what is already here built in the matrix with the herbs, the plants, sound healing devices, less stress, all these things that we need to heal ourselves. Look on top of her head. That's a sun disk. I want you guys to look at this picture, and we're going to talk about technology. When you see certain pharaohs, with their helmets, you'll see that this is actually advanced technology, y'all. So right here it says with the activation of the pineal gland, which some say is the third eye, when open and seemingly supernatural powers are released. So right here in the center, what they call the pineal gland, it starts to flicker like a cobra, similar to a cobra. So right here, they would call it the crown, which symbolizes levels of consciousness, just like the cobra tail. So right here, it also represents the unification of two hemispheres of the brain and the combo. So you see the cobra and the vulture together indicate two functions of intellect and innovation working together. So to the right, you see hypothetical correspondence between, or hypothetical correspondence between ancient Egyptian cosmology and the cranial vault. So to the left, you see the vault of heaven, which some would say represents the mind, Horus and the sun disk, the Djed pillar. So not just the physical way to leave this dimension, but also activating certain chambers of the mind. So clearly there were schools, just like you go to school for engineering to learn certain things. There were schools already built that you could travel to on the planet that were specific in activating portions of the mind, which is still in your DNA. And that's what JoJo was speaking of, that we have the power to heal ourselves, to even regenerate limbs and arms. So that's another science. Once again, we are reptilians. We are humanoid dinosaurs. We're in a matrix made up of tones, frequencies.
Hey, hold on. Watch
So
this.
of course you can regenerate yourself.
Hold on. How he just said how you can regenerate limbs and stuff like that. I want you guys to think about when you get a scar on your hand and then you get something called scar tissue. And your body can do that, meaning it's already been proven to you, but just on a littler scale. Huh?
Keloids.
Yes, keloids, all of that. So
And we're I'm not sure if this is a fact, but I'm asking you. From my understanding, only melanated people get keloids.
I think that's a myth. A lot of people get keloids. It's really just depending on how the cut was given. Like me, I have a lot of scars on my hand, but I didn't keloid because it was. Can you see it?
Yes, and they say that's from when we used to be able to generate other limbs and heal ourselves at faster rates, like a lizard in
Right.
certain reptiles.
My head, all of that. I never really had no keloids and stuff like that. However, back to what I was saying. So when my deity, mind you guys, watch this. When I asked my deity and I said I wanted to go places, she said, "Where do you want to go?" I said, "I want you to take me to hell." And I wanted to know and go see what hell was like, or the figurative way, because I grew up a Christian. And when I got to hell, it really wasn't too far off from where you are here at Earth, but it just didn't have a lot of things. Like love didn't really exist there. Heaven, on the other hand, wasn't too far from hell, but just a little bit more love there. But all of these were just frequencies as far as to where your mind it resonates. When you guys think about your spirits, your ego, your temptation, your lust, all these things, these natural demons that usually run the human mind and the psyche is typically demons from a third party, and that's why you are the way you are. When you start to get in line with your alignment or everything as far as healing, you start then finding yourself more peaceful. When you're around people, they say you have this aura. When you're around people, they say, "Ooh, you're glowing." And it's like this natural little thing. When you just walk in, people just feel your vibration. But to finish in my closing statement, usually where your mind frame is typically going to be where you are. So if you're filled with a lot of anger and aggression and a whole bunch of "I need to then that's what kind of God you are. When you're calm, collective, but you're knowledgeable, that's the type of God you are. So keep in mind on the vibrations that you guys are dealing with day to day, just on a natural plane, because that really will dictate how fast you can heal. Your body catches cancer when you're angry. Your body catches hernias when you stress too hard. When you see what I'm saying? Your body gets diabetes when you don't exercise. Your body shuts down like a pig because it doesn't sweat when you don't exercise. So all these little things that you guys are participating from day to day to day for your common man who are like, all right, dumb it down for us, Brother Jason. That's pretty much what it is. You guys are running off of vibration, but whatever you do for yourselves is what you do as others. I digress.
Amazing, amazing. So right here, before we get into this with us having ancient devices on our head that will activate our pineal gland. So when you see pharaohs in the priesthood, right here wearing certain headdresses, it's actually devices. So the Eye of Horus. Some people might not understand that these hieroglyphs represent science once again, Jojo. So here we have the Eye of Horus is a secret map for our brain. The Eye of Horus bears an uncanny resemblance to the center of the brain. A talisman, it amplifies our spiritual forces and connects us with the divine. The Eye of Horus, the pineal gland, was revered by the ancient Egyptians. The Eye of Horus was revered for a reason. So right here it says that the Egyptians, the pineal gland was revered during the Egyptian times as the Eye of Horus for a reason, because it is the seat of the soul. Your soul is a multidimensional. So through greater connection through the pineal gland, you're able to achieve multidimensional vision. Being able to proceed through the gland enables it to be a stargate or a pathway between physical and metaphysical dimensions. So
And to
basically,
that, we call that our intuition. When you have that little gut feeling, when you have something that speaks to you, but you're not really operating or telling it to, where does that come from?
it comes
When you
from
guys,
your ability, like you were saying, when your
your pineal
pineal
gland is the
gland.
creative side of your brain. So when you're creating this, mind you, creations come in all types of forms, good and bad. But for your body to be able to notice them and then adjust to them, it comes from your third eye. So your third eye is not always for just creativity. It's also for your social awareness. When you're in a
So
room and you know it's about to get shot up, you ever notice where you're like, I probably should get out of here. You see something, but it's not with your naked eye.
exactly. So when we're talking about sight, like JoJo's saying, within your body, there are certain glands that are already intelligently designed for these operations outside of the distractions. So imagine everything that you see is being picked up like by a receiver. So the plants that you see, the objects that you see, the computer screen are made up of atoms, photons, neurons, frequencies, and your avatar, your spacesuit, or your human body has organs that basically code these atoms and photons and frequencies, and it makes the plant just so quick before you can even think, it appears. So the ancient Egyptians are the Cometians, the people of Tamare, who are a global people, which is us. We're able to break down all of that, which we're teaching right now, in a simple hieroglyph. So imagine that, y'all, the school of thought of advancement where we're supposed to be. So we're not just going back to the future, we're moving forward. We're using the past to excel us into the future. So right here, when you see King Tut and these other brothers with certain headdresses, remember that just like they had the meta glasses and certain glasses, we had advanced technology to activate our pineal gland, and imagine what we were able to create and innovate while using electricity in our ancient temples, as you see today, right here in real time. You
Hey,
see
hold on,
the
real quick, hold on, because we were talking about this. So, have you guys ever? I wish I had one. Do you guys ever notice? You can leave that picture. No, go back to the previous one, Jay. Okay, so you see that far right one. Do you guys notice when you go to a hospital, you see the two serpents, and you see them wrapping around the coil exactly like that over there to the right? Have you noticed that, Jason?
Yes, that comes from ancient Kemet, ancient Egypt. When you are in the walls of Egypt, you'll see the pharaohs holding Pharaoh's rod, and some of them will have the serpent wrapped around it. That's where the Europeans, like I stated earlier, the Hippocratic oath. In order to become a medical doctor, you have to take an oath, just like certain brotherhoods. So right there, we see proof. When the Europeans came into Egypt, they just didn't learn this
Hold on.
hogwash.
So let me talk about the Ankh, because those little coils right there are similar. Yes, those coils right there are similar to the Ankh, because what would happen is at the time they would charge up exactly what's in his hand, but at the time that staff had the lasers for them to be able to do the pyramids. Literally, they just point it like this, hit or whatever, and just cut.
And for me, JoJo, within these, there were if I can get it like programmed.
Or
So
like a bandsaw.
like yeah, so I could press a button and it already had a program of a design, possibly like I would say 3D printers. So of course we started at the small level. We remember, y'all, we've been here millions and billions. We've been here since the beginning of time, the land before time, like the movie, prehistoric time. So we developed these sciences to where we eventually got to laser technology. It wasn't just popping up, but in all actuality, we did. We already had this. So imagine us being able to press a button on one of our machines using all these energy devices and creating these buildings. So not only were we able to create mobile devices that were able to do what today are called miracles, but truly this advanced technology and sciences, we were able to create 3D printers. We were able to press buttons and we were able to mold rock. So when you see certain structures that are made of stone, like right here, there's a book that I read called Black Genesis, The Prehistoric Origins of Ancient Egypt by Robert Bouval and Thomas Brophy. It was amazing. It explains that the world's oldest astronomical site, Nabta Playa, was built in Africa and is over 2,000. It is 2,000 years older than Stonehenge, located in the Sahara Desert. The 7,000-year-old stone circle was used to track the summer solstice and the arrival of the annual monsoon season, because the Sahara Desert was once lush green, just like Egypt. When they show you movies of Egypt, they show you a desert. No, Egypt
It
had a
wasn't like
bomb,
that.
a nuclear bomb exploded in Egypt. There was a war, and then one of those pyramids exploded. And I believe, for me, this is through my studies and through my vision, it was a worldwide, like they showed you in the movie Stargate. Those who invaded the planet sent bombs through those portals and blew up the planet, which caused mud floods, which caused certain rainfall, which caused certain things to occur. Plus, there were Stargate openings. But
So
this,
real quick,
this
I
is a calendar. Go ahead, but this is a
from my studies,
exploded calendar, which is a device. But go ahead.
from what I read up on that particular time, I could be far and I could be spot on. This is just what I've acquired through my experience. I'm not saying it wasn't a bomb, but to my knowledge, what happened was there was a lot of like aerial crafts that were coming to the hub at the time, but these particular saucers of whatever kind, they put off a lot of radiation, like a lot of radiation, just by them being it changed the entire atmosphere, from water, from the bacteria that's there. If certain bacteria are there, certain molds can't grow. If certain molds can't grow, certain things can't eat. If certain things can't eat, they never existed.
Okay. So with
But
the
go ahead.
Black Genesis, once again, it proves that not just in Egypt, but what we call the Sudan. Remember, technically, there are more pyramids in the Sudan than in Egypt. And of course, there's pyramids that are yet to be discovered. But basically, right here in the Sahara, we need to start applying that this was lush land and the Nubians had advanced technology as well. So right here, they show cave dwellings of people flying, eating magic mushroom. They show the Sahara when it was lush. So the Nabta was the world's first astronomical site built by the Kushites. You are looking at the world's oldest astronomical site, Nabta Playa, which is older than the Stonehenge. So once again, when we travel through our culture, that imagine us being the archaeologists, the mathematicians. These are fields that our people need to go into instead of worrying about the jobs that we do today that are building up other people's nations. So imagine when we apply our actions and thoughts to who we are. This is what they're hiding. And the Europeans' top scientists are into us. So right here we see Carl Monk, The Code. It's a 3 DVD set. You guys can also look it up on YouTube, but it breaks down how all the ancient monuments and structures, even mounds, are all connected through geometry, through mathematics, and also through music. So it's actually the monuments are actually playing an actual music note. So once again, we'll learn that music is a different frequency, and the ancients knew this. And basically, Karl Monk is saying that these pyramids are also riddles to unlock the mysteries of the matrix, of the universe, and that's what they're distracting us from all of us gathering together and focusing on these monuments that are still standing that correlate with our body in the way the wind is. They're talking about certain pyramids hold certain weight to keep the so-called planet tilted perfectly. How the Giza pyramid is literally perfectly aligned with the equator in the center of the planet. So we talk about beyond advanced people who we now know existed. Meanwhile, we're being taught that AI and all these education systems in the way of living, in the way we think, is advancing us. Yet those who predate the European culture, which we call Aboriginal Indigenous people, built these monuments. In order to build these monuments, it wasn't just machines, but we talk about thousands and millions of years under the sun, under the moon, and stars, developing education systems, systems of knowledge, of measurement, then eventually being able to cut stone. But first, you have to learn to measure. So imagine how long it took for us to develop. And so when they speak of these civilizations like the Mayans disappearing, the ancient Egyptians disappearing, they did not disappear. We are still here. It's that simply that our ancestors, which is you, were murdered. Uh, certain books were burned. Certain statues have been destroyed and hidden. Why? Because they relate to us. This is what we're supposed to be focusing on. And this is the process of how we heal as a people, because clearly it's going to relate to how we eat, how we communicated. And then for me, it had to be a utopia at one time. I know that a lot of us speak of war, and I get it. But in order to build such an advanced society and come up with these perfect precisions, there had to be a time on the planet of peace. You couldn't have been worried about all that. So for me, Jojo, the math, the science, the geometry, the physical evidence that our people displayed, for me, proves that there was a utopian society at one time where there was
A
peace.
utopian society, as far as a peaceful society, was when I died. I'm telling you, man, people gonna think I'm crazy. It's how much um, there's so many things that I had seen
Keep
while I was
talking.
up there in that place. But as far as like a utopia, when there was a time when everyone can speak the same language, there wasn't this division that every single nation has rumored about. There was a long period of time when there was a lot of harmony, there was a lot of construction, and that's how all this mathematics and stuff were shared. When tribes started sticking to themselves and then exploring a little bit left, right, this, that, and the third, of course, you had inbreeding, but at the same time, their cultures were never really adulterated. It wasn't until the colonization and what Jason be talking about as far as the slave Atlantic trade when the history started to change. But prior to that, we had staffs of wisdom, we had so much knowledge, and we had a utopic society because we had the technology. We were full. It was only until we started to switch our initiative to where the society then started to become what you see it is today. And on top of that, on a little food for thought, Egypt at the time wasn't the only place where those pyramids were as far as to that structure. There was many, many places, including the Sudan, where there was bigger pyramids that were more advanced. There was some in Russia. There was some over here. All of these places to where you wouldn't think there wouldn't have that touch of what we would consider Egypt mathematics. You can find it almost anywhere on the planet. Little fun fact.
Exactly. And so when we study ancient America, we see that me and Jojo were talking about that when the Europeans came here, they were searching for gold, advanced cities of gold. In order to build cities of gold, you had to have advanced machines, advanced knowledge, science, healthy food, all these great things that our ancestors built that they had to travel to. But how did the European find out about it? Of course, how did he know about it? And once again, what did he find? What don't we know? So right here, everyone look up the true story of El Dorado in the city of gold. There's a movie called The Lost City of Z. You guys should watch it. And it's a true story about how Europeans were all dying on the Amazon looking for one of the lost cities of gold, not just in South America, but also in the Americas. So we know when they went to San Francisco and different places, there were cities of gold and they chiseled. They tell you about when they saw the pyramids, they took off the limestone. So imagine the other cities of gold that they pillaged and plundered or they have hidden in the Amazon. Jojo, what's your knowledge on El Dorado in the city of gold before we get into Palm Springs and one of the reasons of the Fountain of Youth on why Europeans came to the Americas?
America was El Dorado at the time. That's why it was the place that they wanted to found. You could have went any place in the world, but when you came here, you wanted to start your guys' legacy. Here in America is El Dorado. It just wasn't until these things were covered up. Majority of our stuff is covered up by natural causes, if not man-made. A lot of our natural historical land sites are some man-made. Some of these things are not really authentic. So when you started covering all of that up, the land of the gold, they took it all. Not necessarily they took it all, it's still there, but you remember how we had the California gold rush? You think that's the first time that we ever found gold in this area?
Well, what I was saying with San Francisco is that those cities were already built. So when you see Los Angeles, when you see the downtown San Francisco, downtown LA, downtown Chicago, all these downtowns in America were already built prior to Europeans. So we already have pyramids that are covered up by mountains. When we go to the Amazon, there were pyramids and advanced civilizations already there that existed for millions and thousands of years. Not only just in South America, but right here, we're going to find that in California, Riverside County, the only geoglyphs in the United States found are in Blythe, California, which is in Riverside. So right here, you see pictures of extraterrestrial beings. And when you study these geoglyphs in Riverside County, you'll also see a Nubian woman with dreadlocks playing an instrument because there were Black Indians in Palm Springs. But right here, I want everyone to look up the Hemet Maze Stone. And it reads, this pictograph representing a maze is an outstanding example of the work of prehistoric people. What is prehistoric, y'all? We know what prehistoric is, but think about it. That means that they're admitting that there's a history prior to the European. Think about it. What is how can
Prehistoric
something be
means
prehistory?
prehistory means pre to his story, pre to
Mm.
what he want to tell you,
And who
previous
is
to
he?
what he discovered. Because it
And who
already
is he?
told you when they founded this place. That's what I'm telling you guys. This was the land of the gold, man. There was so much things in rich buoyancy, from artifacts like that, from gold, from rubies to diamonds to all of these natural resources. You guys think that Africa, listen,
Garden of Eden.
Africa has so many countries within it. You guys think that we really have discovered every single part of the universe, and we've discovered every part? We've only have discovered such a small part of this place, bro. Man,
Beyond the ice wall. And that's why they give us maps, JoJo. And that's why they call it a maze. Because there's a way up out of here, y'all. Just like the Truman Show. That's what they're distracting us from. How to get out of the maze. Learn about the maze god. For me, the maze god of Mesoamerica just isn't referring to a crop. It's referring on how to escape out this video game matrix. Like there's a way out of here, out of this reality. But if we are taught to believe that we're spinning on a ball in outer space, that makes our mind think we can't go anywhere. If they give us maps with only Africa, Asia, Europe, Australia, and then frozen Antarctica, that's where our mind thinks. But if we were taught that there were other land masses with advanced technology, advanced civilizations that live in peace, whether it's giants and all these things, you would want to go there. You would want to travel these places. And if you knew that there were maps that the ancients left, that you left in your past life, for you knowing that there was about to be a prison planet, when you know these people and beings came, that there were drawings that they try to hide from you, that it's right here, right in front of your eyes, you would start applying those intuitions, like JoJo was saying, using your cobra, third eye, pineal gland, and you would find the answers of everything that you desire and want after you understand that there's more. So, example, I understand when my Christian brothers and religious brothers are into the Jesus and the God and the Bible because that's all they know. But if they were given an option of who they are,
opportunity at
an
least.
opportunity to succeed, then that means that they have equity and access, which is diversity. When we have a diversity of education, that means it's a diversity of thought and an opportunity for change. But if there's no diversity and no equity, we will forever be lost in a video game matrix hologram that our ancestors have left in the form of ancient gods and deities on the walls, just like you see here in Hemet. And where is Hemet? Hemet is in Riverside County, y'all, my home. So here. And so for me, this is a way to get up out of this dimension and out of this reality. So in order to, without being weird and out being spooky, and these ancient symbols is what they don't want us to decode. So right here, who created the maze? That's a question. But when we study these petrographs and hieroglyphs, they're found all throughout the world, in particularly Kemet, Moorish culture, Native American culture. And so right here, I brought up the Jungle Cruise because at the end of the Jungle Cruise, like El Dorado in the movie Searching for the City of Z, the movie with The Rock, of course, a brother, just like Anaconda with Jennifer Lopez, they're showing you that melanated people had built advanced civilizations all throughout the Amazon, and that Europeans, who knows if they're still doing it to this day, I felt that that's what those fires were also about, that they actually were traveling the Amazon and discovering medicine. So Anaconda Part 2 was called The Hunt for the Blood Orchid. And you hear of ancient tales of the sea having serpents and octopuses and squids and certain sea monsters to keep them away from advanced civilizations under the ocean. And they said the same thing, that we had giant snakes that we had and trained that were put in place to keep the invaders from ever finding these civilizations. And they say that there's still civilizations that they cannot find that are still thriving and living inside of the Amazon that they can't find because they can't get in there. But the movie Jungle Cruise, you guys, go watch it. And it shows you that they discovered, because how do you make a movie like that? Once again, they're showing you bits and pieces how they found these maps and eventually got to these ancient civilizations. And for me, that's how they're able to time travel. But what do they find every time? They find us. That's us. So that's our missing piece, y'all. So when people ask me, Jason, what are we supposed to do? It's this. They're studying you. They're studying you. They're making movies about you, putting it in your face, saying that the richest, most smartest Europeans are after what you built not too long ago. And they're trying to figure out what you built because the moment that you see it, it activates you. They know it. It's just like voice activation, just like sight activation. If you see your brother doing something, you know it's a possibility. Just like you see your brother doing bad stuff, imagine seeing your brother doing great stuff like this. This is the education system, JoJo. This is the curriculum. This is where the truth lies. This is it. And so it's no longer a fantasy. It's no longer a pipe dream. It takes some of us to have the time, raised in certain situations, to have the thought, and then given a platform to explain it in a proper manner, and having enough brother and sisterhood and following and fans to execute it properly, while having a panel like JoJo, Brother Crib Jesus, and Lana to basically be your checkpoint to when JoJo's saying, I agree with you, Jason, but did you look at it through this perspective, which is an angle of light? So that's how we are supposed to approach this as we wake up here in this dimension. And this picture was just showing us how basically us as beings were vibrating on a certain hertz, a certain frequency. That's why you're supposed to be righteous. That's why you're supposed to be of love. Because when your physical vessel does happen to weather away, if it does, you're going to, if you want to go to higher realms, you're going to probably, for me, you're going to be judged. Why? Because everything you're doing now, there's someone looking at you. There's someone watching your every move. And that's what they don't want you to know, because that's also the trick, I believe. And for me, I would say I know, like JoJo knows, is that once you understand that there's a other side, you probably aren't going to be doing the shady shit you do. But it's good. It's almost like a farming system to weed out those who I felt were stowaways on my spaceship. And once we landed on this planet, there were people who went against me. And of course, I had elders, right? And I believe for me, that's really what we're dealing with. People who look similar to us, who went rogue and had some of the teachings, and they tried to do an off-brand. And we're dealing with an intergalactic war, y'all. We're dealing with some real fun. So what do you
think hold on, real quick. Just for our Christian audience, when he says an intergalactic war, you can say an interdimensional, because y'all all believe in spiritual warfare. Y'all all believe in, those third foreign principalities. Y'all, that shit comes in every form. And some foreign entities that y'all don't know about, that he talking about, can have just a vibration to provoke you to anger, to strife, to heart attacks, to disease. I'm telling you, man, there's such a grander world and aspect, even outside of the church and all of those propagandic teachings. Half of the stuff we talk about on this panel alone isn't even the half of it, you guys. This ain't even the half of it. This is just a quarter of the pie.
With an ancient petroglyph on it that has puzzled historians for over 100 years.
Hey there, my web crafting wizards. In today's episode, I want to show you a cool new way you can make some extra money.
Skip that. Here we go. So right here,
scientists are not sure who created the mysterious symbol on the rock and when it was created. There are many theories that include everything from ancient Chinese sailors who got lost at sea to alien visitors from another planet.
Chinese sailors. That's because Riverside had rivers to
The
the ocean.
Hemet Maze Stone is a 46-inch square petroglyph carved into a boulder. The Maze Stone is probably best known for the mystery surrounding its origin. The boulder is located in Reinhardt Canyon, within the Lakeview Mountains, in Riverside County, California. The Hemet Maze Stone was discovered in 1940 when a rancher named Myers was working in the area. By the 1920s, the Maze Stone became a tourist attraction. In 1956, Roger Miller donated the stone, along with 5.75 acres of associated land to Riverside County, provided it will be converted into a park.
Donated.
Today, it is California Historical Landmark number 557. The government installed 2 perimeter chain link fences around the petroglyph landmark for protection. The surrounding land has been set aside for the protection of native plants and animals, with a warning that the natural features may be hazardous. The property is located at the end of California Avenue to the north of Highway 74 and several miles east of Interstate 15, near Hemet.
Kemet. All the names of Riverside have Kemet.
The road has been blocked off to prevent people from driving too close to the Maze Stone. The maze consists of 2 rectangular boxes, one large and containing the other one centered. If you trace the patterns with different color markers, you would find out that between the boxes there are 2 contiguous geometric maze patterns. One maze is contained by the other on the left-hand side. The swastika that appears in the lower left-hand corner is not part of the original work. Sometime later, a vandal added a counterclockwise swastika to one corner of the carving. This is not the same swastika that the Nazis in Germany appropriated after World War II.
But the swastika had different meanings at the time, though.
Swastikas were used in Oriental and Native American art long before the Nazis used it as a symbol. The stone is now protected by a pair of chain link fences. The maze stone is not what people might consider to be a regular maze. Without knowing the original intent of the creator, it is difficult to know if the maze represents an engineering drawing, a symbol, or an artistic concept.
Why January 2025 will make or break your child's college chances.
This petroglyph is classified as California engraved within the California tradition of rock art. Artifacts that have been found nearby have been dated to at least 500 years ago, but carving on the boulder itself could be much older. The most likely origin of the Maze Stone's petroglyph was Native Americans. design of the maize stone resembles a swastika, which is a symbol that was used in Native American art for over 1,000 years. Similar rock art has been found elsewhere in Riverside and San Diego counties and is known as the Rancho Bernardo style. The other version says that ancient Chinese created it. A while ago, there was a speculation that sailors and monks from China visited the Americas before the time of Columbus. The main reasoning for this theory is that swastika-like images were common in Buddhist religion. But there is no evidence to support that it ever happened. Some have speculated that visitors from another planet created the Hemet Mace stone, because why not? If aliens had the technology to travel between planets, they would do more than carve a design into a rock. Whatever the origin of the Hemet Mace stone might be, it's still an amazing landmark to visit when you are in Hemet, California. So, who do you think created this maze stone? Leave your opinion in the comments.
So once again, I teach y'all about Riverside, California, Riverside County, beachfront property, ancient civilization, outside of Los Angeles, the city of angels, which they now call the Inland Empire. This is advanced civilizations. Keys to unlocking our minds and keys to the universe. In California, y'all, it's where the pyramids are. Way home. So those of us, can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
So those of us who live in Riverside and learn, we're going to talk about Palm Springs, but look how big that is. That's not small. And if you learn about the rocks in Riverside, they're huge. I'll play my video Thunder Rock, and it looks like a pyramid structure.
Hey, Jason, don't forget Florida healing waters.
Okay, and we're going to thank you. All linked up. So why did people come to Riverside, y'all? All this were lakes and rivers, but they were dammed up recently. The Colorado River ran through, the Santa Ana River, which means that the Pacific Ocean connected to these rivers and you were able to sail inland at one time. This is why they're saying Chinese explorers, because when you go to downtown Riverside, they say that the Asiatics, pause it, unshare the screen. It shows that the Asiatics were here. And so who are the Asiatics? We talk about the Moors and Moors. The past episode, we talk about the Nation of Islam and Elijah Muhammad and Malcolm X and those brothers and Noble Drew Ali, how they were speaking on how we were Asiatics, meaning when the lands were connected and when they also called this before Earth planet Asia, there was a culture and there is a culture, and through sacred geometry we we have, just like this conversation, we were able to break that down within the Maidstone. So what do you guys feel about the Maidstone as we get into Riverside County in the healing waters? So basically I was saying that underneath the land of Riverside County, you have healing waters, and that's why Palm Springs, Lake Elsinore, Temecula, Sun City, Herupa Valley, Hemet, which is Kemet, the Scientology headquarters are here. All the celebrities go to Palm Springs. It's because of all the resorts that have healing water spas. So what do you guys feel about this?
So even the fact that it's called Hemet, right? So that H, when you align it through like translation, if you were to translate it directly with the Hebrew, which if I'm not mistaken, goes back to the Paleo Babylonian, but it's what they call the chef. So it's pronounced like K. So it's in the Hebrew translation, that's literally Kemet. Now the maize or the mazi or the moles, right? The Kemet moles, and this geometry to me looks similar to what we see like what's that called in Andinkra code?
Yes, the algorithm taught by the Dogon. Go into it,
Yeah.
brother.
When they have the Andinkra code, let me see. I'll talk about that in here.
So
So
when we talk, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
So what brother's bringing up is that even when we study the Dogon tribe of Mali, West Africa, we see that the modern computers that they today use these algorithms and mathematical sequences that these ancient African tribes and nations and civilizations built, and that the Europeans once again still to use. Because right here they said that the swastika was also put, and it wasn't the swastika used by Hitler and the Nazis. It was in another angle representing counterclockwise, and the Nazis used it clockwise because it also would represent Abraham or Abraham or Abraham, which is really celestial events or the stars that eventually got broken down into religious forms and petroglyphs. So when you see the swastika, that symbol you can find in the sky. And when we were taught this knowledge, we were able to travel the stars and pull down certain information from those stars. And for me, once again, relating to the Maidstone in Hemet, which is Kemet, proving that this is our ancient land. Go ahead, brother. Because we're going to relate it to the Black Indians of Palm Springs.
So I want to share some right here. This is the Andinkra codes, right? So this has a striking similarity as far as the pattern and the sacred geometry being communicated by it. As you see, all of them fit into a pattern of what is 4 sevens. Even when you see like them old school models, now it's all about looking like a freak. The old school models, when you hit them poses, they're hitting their sevens. You know what I mean? So it's really the 4 sevens. And what that is a perfect measurement, especially through lunar measurement. So, through lunar measurement, you're dealing with every time that we hit a rotation on the axis, and you see the solar cycle of a day 7 times. What happens at that point is you need something to compare it to, right? To measure it in order to rule, like a ruler. And we have been blessed with that. It's the sun, moon, and stars. So what you'll see is every time the sun and the earth experience 7 cycles, the moon has experienced a quarter moon. So it goes from quarter moon to half moon to 3/4 moon the next 7 days, and then to a full moon in the 28 days of the cycle. What that does is that's a month. That's where the word month derived from moon. And what happens there is you'll realize it's 13 of these cycles in the year, not 12. That's why they have to play with the calendar and put the 31, 30, and all of that. So sacred geometry is dealing with shapes instead of just, what they did was they put rules and formulas in our head. So they say this means this looks like that. So we see a 1 and a 2. But sacred geometry deals with shapes and patterns that we can feel and express and even download from just by looking at them,
Facts. I'm gonna show you guys this real quick too. I'm gonna share the screen as well while me and my brother go back and forth as guys. I love this. And by the way, let's start being thankful as we have the internet right now. So I'm gonna share this and I want y'all to see it. It says, as he was talking about the Ndinka codes, the Hemet Main Stone is a prehistoric petroglyph. It is just outside of Hemet in Rhetoric or Red Heart Canyon within the Lakeview Mountains in Riverside County, California. On April 16th, 1956, Mr. and Miss Roger E. Miller donated the stone along with 5.7 acres associated land to Riverside County. It's a historical California landmark. The government installed two perimeter chain link fences around the petroglyph landmark for protection. It goes on to talk about the features of the stone. And while Nazis in Germany appropriated the swastikas after World War I, they used the clockwise version of the swastika. Swastikas were also used in Oriental and Native American art long before the Nazis. So once again, they're showing you that the Europeans, once again, still your symbols that we use for power in wealth, in culture, in technology, in ways to get home and learn about Hitler, time travel, watch the Indiana Jones movie, learn about Operation Paperclip, learn about NASA, learn about the Stargate program as we were speaking of. And so it connects it to these ancient symbols that we need to know that resonate with us. So the stone is protected once again. So the maze, like I say, the maze God, the maze, it's a way up out of here, y'all. It's a way up out of this land. I'm telling y'all. So the maze consists of two rectangular boxes, one large and containing the other center. If one traces the patterns, one would find that between the boxes are two contiguous geometric patterns that resemble a maze. One maze is contained by the other on the left-hand side, depending on the interpretation, which for me are the left and right brain hemispheres, but let's go. The petroglyph could also show four-walled structures or areas consisting of two simple objects and two maze-like complex objects, what might be underground, right? Covered. There is an inner and outer object for each type of simple or complex object. So right here, it goes into detail, y'all. Look at this. Doesn't it look like the Ndinka codes and the Ndinkra codes? Doesn't it look like a computer symbol circuit?
Look
Doesn't
like
it
Pac-Man.
look like those symbols like video game stuff? Because it's all that. Mm-hmm. It looks like the city when you're in the plane, because they built the cities around our minds, and there's a way that our ancestors left on symbols that activated, that hold these keys of information on how to get home, on how to get picked up. And we just have to keep going further. In order to get further, we must.
It kind of looks like a computer chip.
And there you go. That's what we're saying. Exactly. And that's what the Ndinka codes are. They use those Ndinka codes to create algorithms. Just like they tell you they steal Gucci and Nike symbols, they steal these codes that the Dogon and ancient Africans and indigenous people have already built, that you built for the day that you went to sleep. You could go forward with this and remember and get up out of here. So right here, it says two simple structures. Symbols. Now look, put it in your head. You got to remember it, y'all. So simple outer wall / line object structure. That's the black one. So they're showing you. like Pac-Man, right? The maze. Watch Westworld as well, and study the maize corn in Mesoamerica. Study the maize god. It's not about the crop. It's the essence of the crop. That's why we got to create our own farms again. Because when you're farming, like George Washington Carver said, you can talk to the plants and they'll tell you what to do. Okay? You can separate, but first you separate mentally in the mind. Simple inner wall / line object structure gray. Okay, and then inside is a space created, the inner wall, and to the right, outer inner wall structures, and on the bottom, space created by the outer wall contains complex objects. So they're saying that these are structures that I would say are underneath Thunder Rock, underneath these mountains, because the water receded to Malibu and all these places, and like Ross Perot and all these famous people were telling you, Palm Springs, Riverside County was beachfront property, because we would find petroglyphs all through the orange groves, it's arrowheads, healing hot water. So let's get to the pictures as we link up Florida, because Florida got the navel oranges from Riverside, and Riverside was the richest city in America because they were cloning the navel orange, which sprouted the Florida citrus industry as well. So Riverside was the richest city in America, and they would come out here to heal. It's all about healing, y'all. So right here, I show you a picture in Riverside, and it's called Palm Springs, and you look at the healing waters that when we would go in the orange groves and stuff, we would jump in and it would be hot and stuff. Now we're kids, of course, we tell parents, and parents would go and tell and all this stuff. But in Riverside, you were able to travel in the desert and stuff before they started building all these houses and Jack in the Boxes and all these businesses, tearing up our home from the coyotes and mountain lions and destroying our nature, because this is the land of the Netchers, like JoJo was saying. They knew that this was like the Garden of Eden. This was where they didn't know how to go. They couldn't find the map. Just like Florida, the water was healing. They were coming here to drink the water because there's a way to live for eternity, just like in Netherland, or like Peter Pan, Never Neverland, until the Captain Hooks come. So the Netherland, this is the land of the nature gods, because we were eating fruits, eating vegetables, eating off of the land, swimming in hot saunas that healed us, drinking water that healed us to where we didn't have to even eat, because we are electrical beings. We are melanated beings, but they took us off of our living. They took us out of our culture. So they go to Palm Springs in secret. You think that they're just going there, but they're telling each other this is where they go to heal themselves. And they're celebrities, so they live hundreds of years. They go into hiding and they pop back up again. So we are the living Neteras, the Neterus, in our physical human body. The avatar represents nature. So we are the spider, we are the melon, the watermelon, we are the water, we are all the physical and spiritual attributes of all that we see. Condensed sunlight in this body right here. So when I show you guys Palm Springs, I'm going to connect it to Marilyn Monroe and why they're bringing up JFK, which deals with Elm Street, because they knew that a being able to hold this type of information, Elm Street is where they got Hollywood and the elm tree. The Hollywood is where they would do the bad witchcraft. The Elm Street is where the elm wood grows, where the Moors would practice their sciences, because the magic mushroom grows on the elm tree. And you can use the elm wood for bark and healing purposes for your gut, which is your second brain. And when you use the elm wood in science and magical ceremonies, it takes you to the realm of the gods. And that's why in Hollywood, they took away Elm Street with the gods and the Moors and Moors and put Freddy Krueger, which is them. They molest children. They're able to enter our dreams through movies, y'all, through these suggestions. That's why they're trying to make it like Escape from LA. They give us all these murder, death, and mayhem movies. So we build multiverses on this. So murder, lies, and cover up. JFK. What is in Palm Springs, y'all? The Black Indians. Learn about the Black Indians of Palm Springs. Look at us, y'all. We're all through there because all that was beachfront property, just like the movie Inkwell. Watch the movie Inkwell. So there was UFO activity like in Blythe, because I showed you the petroglyphs earlier, which is all Riverside, y'all. Riverside is the ancient Nile because there's many Niles. There's basically many rivers that we utilize to set up civilization. Because when you have knowledge itself and you have a group of woman, man, child, and all that, and knowledge, you can go anywhere and set up shop. And they took over these lands. So you see the UFO of Bob Hope in Palm Springs. He had a house. And so JoJo was talking about the Florida water. So there's something when you learn about Bruja or witchcraft, learn about the healing waters of Florida. They would call it the Garden of Eden because when the Europeans came, they didn't find red Indians. They found dark-skinned, woolly-haired beings because the original so-called Indians are what today are misclassified as Black people or African American. You were already here and you built advanced civilizations not too long ago. They changed the time code and they're distracting you with lies and manipulation while they celebrate in front of your face, trying to get you into the matrix again. So Palm Springs, Marilyn Monroe, they used her. For me, Marilyn Monroe was mixed, but they're showing you that statue and they're showing you the aliens and they're showing you the connection on how when you drink water, bathe in water, you can heal yourself. And there's a way not to eat these poisonous foods. And the moment we stop eating their foods and go forward, up, to our culture, we heal, we live forever as Netrus and gods because we vibrate on a different frequency. That's why they are vampires. That's why they need us. They need us. So it goes here, conspiracy theories, the death of Marilyn Monroe. Marilyn Monroe killed by aliens. Did Bobby Kennedy murder Marilyn Monroe? Because they talk about, we call it pillow talk today, to where they said JFK was telling her all these secrets and the mafia tapped the phone in Palm Springs. And that's how they got JFK and Bobby, is that they were going to Palm Springs doing drugs and they learn about the mafia in Palm Springs and how they have underground tunnels, learn about the orbs, learn about the UFO and alien sightings in Palm Springs, because all that was going up, going down out here in Riverside. So what are your guys' thoughts that you learn about when you hear about Marilyn Monroe, aliens, conspiracy theories, JFK, murdered on Elm Street? But let's go to the Florida healing waters. I know I spoke a lot.
No, it's all relevant. It's all relevant because what happens is it's all about the misdirection, meaning that as soon as they start talking about anything outside of the scope of what we've been deemed to accept as normal or even terrestrial, because they say extraterrestrial, but a lot of things they call extraterrestrial are already part of our terrestrial, even part of our DNA. So they're here with us, right? So I look at it more as, I take it literally. You see, I deal with words a lot. So I look at it as extraterrestrial is not in the sky. It's extraterrestrial. It's extra on the terrestrial. Whether it's us, more water going down. You get what I'm saying? What's under them caves? That's the terrestrial. And it's extra beyond what we see on the surface here, right? So when we're talking about the healing waters, there's how do I explain it? There's civilization that deals with the
Did you do that?
The building. I don't want to say architecture, but the building of the last civilization. You get what I'm saying? They know the ways and the routes and the ins and outs to think. Okay, even like just if people want to look it up, look at the Naga Sadhu. The Naga Sadhu are a tribe of brothers in India who only come out the caves every like 4 years, I believe. You know what I'm saying? So when we're talking about these certain geographical locations, you do have civilizations there and even in other places that are tapped in with them that understand how to use them in ways that we don't know. Some of these areas are portals, because the vegetation there and the forestation there is different than it used to be once upon a time. You feel me? So
When you
it's
say
a lot
portal,
of different mysteries when you get there.
go ahead. What you were saying with portals, you're saying that some of these lands are portals, possibly. Can you expand further, please?
Yeah, that's probably. I mean, that's obviously why they got that gated up and completely blocked off. You feel me? You got
Yeah.
the geometry there.
And just like they were showing us how there's an underground, they said complex or structure. So imagine what's underneath there, and like you said, gated up. So clearly, if I had a few episodes, if you remember, months ago, where they have underground bases and underground tunnels in Hemet. You remember that military base episode we did? Where they found all the World War I and World War II stuff, tanks. So that would mean that they found those tunnels that they're showing you in the maze. And that's why the Scientology headquarters are in Hemet, California, y'all. And they tell you that they have underground bunkers. So most likely they built on top of those underground cities that were just simply covered up by land and mud and debris, and all they got to do is go underneath one of those entrances.
Man, they got snipers over there. They got hidden sniper towers over there. It's really crazy.
Someone should type in Scientology building. These are real things, y'all, that they distract us from, that are right here in our face. There's no coincidence that they name a city Hemet, and then we find maze stones that predate Europeans, and the Europeans block it off because it's saying something. They're waiting for some of us to decode it, because clearly whatever we're doing, it's not it. If you notice, the top people in the world, they're always searching for our stuff. So clearly they're using this world that they build on top of our culture to distract us. Meanwhile, they're studying us to put us in slavery, so they can basically play what they call God, the Allahs, Osiris, until hopefully we wake up. But let's stay on the positive note. So right here we have the opportunity through the internet, versus 40, 20, 60 years ago, our parents and grandparents might not have had the opportunity to learn this information, So we have to utilize this, y'all. So go ahead, Jojo or Crip Jesus.
No, 1,000%. I agree 1,000%. And we really got to utilize it, because if you look at those that came before us, they were having better results with less technology. So it's time for us to really step it up. You know what I mean? And stop running machines.
So, go ahead. Were you saying something? So align what our brothers are talking about as we start closing it up. We basically broke down healing. It seems to me that the whole planet was about healing. And then once you healed yourself, they call it rejuvenation. What was it like when we were juvenated? What was it like when we didn't have to rejuvenate ourselves, but there was stations built? So there was stations built all around the world. When you were depleted of energy, you go heal up, energize your atoms, photons, neurons, and go about your travels of high advanced science. We're not able to see the TVs of what they were doing, but we're able to see the monuments, right? We're able to see the science and compare to the education system what we're learning today. So we see the crack explained. Do you guys remember the church bells back in the day?
Oh, yeah.
And so what is your guys' thoughts on why the church bells were removed? We see here that it says 7 things you didn't know about church bells. The sound of the bell is a healing frequency used to heal the whole neighborhood. Now they use music to make us kill each other or get stuck in a time loop of the same song over and over on the radio for years. What do you guys feel about bells and natural music being used?
Hey, you remember that big bowl I was talking about? Y'all bing
Yes.
it. Yeah, that one right there. Well, if you hang that above your head, typically we pray down, but aren't you supposed to pray up?
Well, the Muslims put their hands up instead of, but I know they go down. But yes, that's
Usually
what
your vibration
the
when your
symbol
head
is.
is down, it's at its low, it's like it's lowered.
Well, yeah,
Typically, when you're trying to ascend, you want to go into the direction of where your face is headed, right?
yes,
So
that's
when they
why they
have them,
use it to
so
put
when they
their.
have those healing bells, and you go to India and stuff like that, and they have those sound baths and all that other
Yeah,
shit, it's the same thing, but they don't blow that down because at the time, even in China right now, you notice how they I don't think it's just in China, but in certain Asian cultures, they'll all at one God given time, they'll bing the bells at one time, and it'll be the whole neighborhood be hearing the bong. It
they
puts off that energy.
Yeah, they do that in Egypt. I don't know if they do it in every
Well,
Muslim country, but they play the hayya and they all get down and they do their prayer. And at first, I see how they hypnotize people with that. But for me, I also looked at the positive to where no matter what you're doing in the matrix, drop down, get thanks to, and it allows you to probably think on a higher level instead of in America where we're just going. But keep going, JoJo or Crip,
well,
King Allah or King L.
I was gonna say, you see the cultural titles on them. Tibetan bells. You see in Islamic world, it's the la 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 la. You see in the Chinese culture, it's the gong. You see in Africa, it's different drums. This is natural. And you even see back when I was growing up, I ain't that damn old, you know what I mean? Just a few decades ago, it was church bells. Especially on Sunday morning, you go outside, you hear ding, ding, ding. But they stopped that. And what you see is with this corporate world that we live in now, they want to own the airwaves. So yeah, they don't want any type of bells. It's not just church bells. It's the same way they ban the drums from the plantations, right? They don't want anything dealing with our vibrations that heal or communicate in any form between us. And it's more having to do with owning the airwaves and controlling the frequencies, which they've successfully gotten to that point right now.
So basically, you're saying that they use music to transform the minds of the population. Or
Yeah,
sound.
but I'm saying that when they got rid of the bells, it
Mhm.
was in order to control the frequencies completely. You know what
Correct.
I'm saying? Those
Just like,
those bells, those all those bells, whether we talk about drums in Africa or Tibetan bells or
yes.
Chinese gong, they're traditions passed down. They're not coming from the corporate. You know what I'm saying? So what they
Mhm.
wanted to do was get that out of here. You know what I'm saying? Even the Christian bell, they don't care. They want to control the airwaves completely.
Because that's why they took out the music instruments, y'all. The reason they took out the music instruments, because eventually you would learn that the instruments back in the day could open up portals. Watch the movie, the original Masters of the Universe, and the to me that was when I was a kid. I said, "Oh wow, there's a way to build a music machine, and I can open up portals through sound." And so that's why they put everything digital, because by now, after the guitar, after the harp, coincidentally, harp used to change the weather, right? And then the harp could be used to call angels and deities, right? Certain sounds, Beethoven and Mozart's music heals cancer. So imagine certain music notes, just like we were showing earlier with
Hold on,
palm.
hold on, hold on. Right now, we don't even use no more real instruments. Actually, now that you were
Well,
just
that's what
talking
I'm
about that,
saying.
it's
They
all
took
808.
wait,
It's
right.
it's
So
all
wait, wait.
808. There's no.
So the reason they took the music instruments out of class is because we were doing Earth, Wind, and Fire, Michael Jackson, Jackson 5. If you remember Motown and all those brothers and sisters, they had live bands. So when we were doing live instruments and drums, that resonated with our hearts. That's when we were doing love music. And so when they, like JoJo was saying, the 808s, the digital music, it made it synthetic. So you're getting synthetic music, which is music. To me, it's not supposed to even be called music probably. Why? It's Moo health or something, but Mu comes from the Mers, right? Mu. Who is Mu? Hathor, the cow deity. What does the Hathor produce? The magic mushroom. So that's why you see a Hathor with the sun disk and the horns like Beyonce and them, because Hathor was a music deity as well. So, but go ahead, JoJo. So once again, the music, they had to take out real instruments because eventually we were going to create different instruments like we did in the past to mold rock. And so the code that Carl Monk was saying, that the pyramids and the mounds and the ancient structures all throughout the planet sing a song, and it's called geomusic. So it's saying that the ancient structures give off a riddle in a music note. So therefore, if we don't know music, which is a language, if you see those music notes, they're actually languages. And that's why the Olmecs did the zero count, and you see certain codes, because clearly it's a mathematical science geometry type of music note to unlock chambers and probably most likely activate these machines that they're also saying are voice activated. And so that's why in these movies, they always show you that they have to do some type of puzzle, or when they're stealing the sarcophagus, when they're opening up the sarcophaguses and stealing the thorax of these pharaohs, what they're doing, like they showed you in the movie Blade, they're trying to use the thorax and decode these ancient symbols and hieroglyphs and speak it through the computer like an AI, so that the pyramid and these complexes that are voice activated only through our Baron tone, Baron, learn about this, the deity, the Baron, that we can activate these monuments. And that's why they have us on the music, which is making us sick, instead of creating music that is going to teach us how to escape the matrix hologram. And so the music was supposed to be a vehicle to get us off the planet and learn about Sun Ra, the musician from the Bay. He was talking about how music was used to heal and to get us off of the planet, just like we use music tones to lift heavy stones and heal our bodies to where we could fly, because you're able to fly through knowing how to use the geometric grid, because it's magnetic field. So if you're using 80% of your mind, just like the birds and the animals, to use the magnetic field, you could levitate. And so that's where they get the magicians and all that from, because they were brothers and sisters performing sciences, what they now call miracles and magic today. Then eventually, when we fell, we were able to create machines to mimic that, which they're trying to do today. Watch the movie Street Fighter and watch how M. Bison has those flying vehicles that you see with the Anunnaki symbol with someone in the middle flying a craft. Because through the magnetic field, you would be able to create craft that would move faster than the speed of light and sound, right? Or mixed with both, to transport your atoms, photons, and neurons to different parts of the universe through geometry. And that's where we get Beam Me Up Scotty from. And in the movie Stargate, where they show you them destabilizing your atoms. So not only were we able to do the physical body, eventually you were able to lay inside of these pyramids, and you were able to astral project your consciousness to these star systems and bring it back, this information, and talk to your people. So what do you guys feel when you learn about that there's a code and advanced technology that they now are finding, that there's a global matrix to this earth that each monument is built upon?
So the simulator we're living in itself is a whole big ass mathematical puzzle. Our human symmetry is a big mathematical puzzle. If you look at an octopus, now that right there is some scientific shit I can't even explain. And on top of that, that's the closest form to extraterrestrial we have on Earth. So when we're talking about math and we're talking about this, I mean, man, we're that movie like the Da Vinci Code. We're literally inside of this big. None of this shit is real, Jay.
Definitely. It seems that some of the structures also hold our atoms and photons and neurons together. So, what if some of these pyramids, certain ones, is what holds the hologram together? You know, and that's why we better not destroy them. That it because when you look at the pyramid of Giza, we think it's just four sides, but it's different. It's more sides to it, and that it actually goes with the wind, the air, and it reflects the sunlight, all this stuff. So possibly these monuments are reflecting the atoms, photons, and neurons, which digitize the world that we see. So that's the mystery of the pyramids. What were they also used for? How do we build them? And that's, to me, how we escape without dying. It's a mystery, and that's when it gets fun. If you started learning, man, there's a mystery to this. There's a way of out of this. You wouldn't worry about their jobs. You wouldn't follow their religions. You would come together out of love and righteousness because you knew that, well, you know that you never die, but your consciousness lives forever. So in order to get to certain levels after you die, you have to obtain a certain amount of information here. So to me, it gets fun. What do you guys think as we start closing it out? You guys there? Because I could go on for days to close it out. So as we start
My
closing,
bad. My mic was. I didn't know the mic was muted. Yeah, I'm right here.
All right. So,
Hey, I
so
will
go
say
ahead.
this. I will say this. I think that this matrix we live in, whether it's held together from the pyramids or not, I think that they're like every single matrix and every single simulator. There's a lot of cheat codes that we're just barely finding out now. I think even past tense, they were on the discovery of more knowledge. We're always trying to evolve, right? But even if we go back, we might evolve a little bit, but once we hit that pivotal point where we know all these things that are hidden, there's still going to be that point where we're going to want to go further past that. So I think that there's some cheat codes in this entire whatever the fuck you want to call it.
And Dinka codes. Did you want to elaborate on that a little? Kyrgyzstan, go wherever.
I think the Indinka codes are really interesting, man, because if every single alien visit, you know how they always leave these certain patterns and stuff like
Crop
that.
circle.
I think that the crops circles are a mixture of things. I think some of them are names. I think some of them are locations. I think some of them are itself are just instructions. I think some of them are just symbols to other people who are over the airs, but it's not necessarily for us. I think some of those codes or whatever, or those crop circles had
Yes.
nothing to do with us. That right there is the part where it makes you go, well, then who was it for? Because we don't understand it, but it keeps on popping up.
That's for me. I'm meant to understand it. To me, exactly what you said. Time portals. When you come in the matrix hologram through a dimension, it'll be a marker to what time, whether it's the 1960s, 2 point, or let's say you plug in at 6:30 p.m. on the dial in this thing. That's why they 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 trip off of time, daylight savings time. We might not think that is anything, but there's a reason that they throw it off for regular citizens. There's a reason why the military goes off a different time than the regular citizen. It's because, like you said, those crop circles, these sacred geometries are different time codes, time periods that we can clock into. But yeah, for me, once we start getting to higher levels, you can look in astral project. You can remote view. I was just reading the CIA files with the Stargate files, how they tell you that remote viewing is real. So you can look on the planet from a higher realm. You just have to get to those realms in reality of the mind. These things don't happen overnight. Just like to the right, the 13 chakra system of ancient Egypt. So these wheels that they call of light, some might debate it, but what we say is energy centers, because we know we're light beings or dark beings that when we move create light. So that gets fun because when we study the ancient cultures, they're able to break down acupuncture or certain parts of the foot. I was watching Bloodsport, and he was showing Frank Dukes or the European certain pressure points and points to the face in diagrams like Crip Jesus was saying were passed down. That's why they said they murdered Bruce Lee and certain people, because the moment we started teaching them our sacred sciences, they used it against us, not only to make it commercial and profit from it, but use it in their military to hurt other people. When we used it, all the kung fu movies like Mr. Miyagi and all them, they used it for self-defense. Like Leroy from Last Dragon, you had Shona, who had caught the globe, but it was red, right? He was just showing off, beating people up. But Leroy, those who are bound by desire, see only which can be held in their hand. I got something real for you, your ass, in these hands. Catching bullets with his teeth. Take a plea. So that movie showed us that through martial arts, through getting your chakras in chi, through love, you can find that sublime glow that is inside of us that we each can activate. And so not just one person can do that. We can do that. And that's what we got to, this is what we're on. And we're going to get further and greater and greater and greater at it. And to me, this is what the ancients left us. And then the brothers who came before us who were silenced are taken out before their time, So y'all brothers go ahead. I'm excited the more I study, I just see all these, like you said, JoJo, cheat codes, but basically power-up centers to where there's supposed to be a business, to where we're supposed to be able to protect our wives, our children, and provide for our families and nation through this information. We just need enough of us to understand it. We're going to move as gods and goddesses again as the wealthiest people in the galaxy. So and then also what ancient Egyptian priests and priestess knew about energy and consciousness. Do you notice that in our ancient cultures, we gave reverence to our priestess, our women, and that's what's missing as well. Look in the middle, you see that Nubian brother getting put up on game by the priestess. So we need that more in our community. We need our so-called Nubian women more into the culture, healing us. We need you. We need you to heal. And this is why they want our mothers stuck in the church instead of creating her own hospitals, because she has the healing hands. That's why they say that the pastor makes you start shaking and stuff. Imagine when our moms and aunties are in her right mind again, and she's able to pull the power that she has and teaches us again how to heal ourselves. That's why we need each other. So what do you guys feel about the ancient Egyptians having the priests and priestesses instead of just a priesthood where they had the nuns and they say that they rape the nuns or subjugate them to certain ways?
Masculine and feminine energy, the ultimate equilibrium, the balance of the universe, good and evil, forces that come soft, forces that come strong. The balance of both of those is how we obtain harmony. Christians typically believe they have to cast out everything within their inner selves, whereas verse B, if you were to be, we would be able to touch that utopia. So I think Egypt, for them to get that utopia that we were talking about earlier, they had to have priestess and priests just within themselves. But I got to get off the show, you guys. But I wanted to leave something off with you guys with love. I want to say that for today, the little ending message from JoJo is
You guys, I want you to be more open-minded to the idea that whatever you have learned in the past could be wrong. That's it. That's a big one. One love. I got to get out of here.
All right, y'all. Any last words, Crib Jesus? So I'm about to end it, y'all. So as we talked about this 2.5 hour episode, as you guys see today, we talked about Atum and the ancient deities of Kemet, Tamaray, and how it relates to science and chemistry and how we had an education system. So rewind this episode because it's long and it's great. We broke down how the major deities of ancient Egypt are based on celestial constellations. It's based off of chemistry. It's based off of algebra, science, mathematics, geometry, all these things that are wealth. When we talk about Kefri, it's a solar deity. Horus, we learn about the sky. You can learn about war, hunting. Tawet, a protector. We learn about childbirth, fertility, to where the dual watts, to where the woman who practice the childbirth ceremonies, Thoth, the arbitrator, writing, magic, science, judgment of the dead, Khnum, rebirth, creation, the evening sun. So each of these ancient deities are attributes that are within you, that our ancestors wrote out. So when you're dealing with the depression, when you're dealing with these things, we already have it. And these are what these modern day religions base these things off of. So when you learn about the different characters in the Bible, they're simply taken from here. And so we already did it, and that's where the wealth is. It's in our true culture, and this is how we build up, forward, and above and beyond. So once again, Jason Elm Street Williams, master of the universe, and summing it up with the healing. We were able to touch each other with healing sounds and frequencies to heal each other. We had our own, they say hospitals, but we had our own centers where we were able to activate and release any poison from our cells and live, like they say, the fountain of youth for eternity, live for 300 and thousands and hundreds of years. So rewind the episode. We got into it, and we're going to continue to get into it even more. I appreciate you guys listening, and hopefully you can rewind this and see all the cultural references that we discussed. So as we end it, always, we're going to give you some cool, awesome videos. So here we go once again.
Got you, son.
Yo, what's up? It's Jason, the God MC, better known as Elm Street. We out here in Africa, plain old Egypt, about to open the stargates. You already know everything is atoms, photons, neurons, electrons. So we're going to turn around right here, and we're going to show you the Great Pyramid. That's the Great Pyramid. I'm the Great Pyramid. You're the Great Pyramid. Yeah, we're living it up. Shout out to Toronto, U.S., Africa, Brazil.
Jane Street finest, man. Jane Street Candy Collection. Toronto. Out here, banging against the system too. Hey, see that.
Welcome to the world-famous King Tut Museum. Be sure to respect the ancient relics. The ancient Egyptians were a magical people who built numerous beautiful, magnificent structures, like the world-famous pyramids and temples. No running inside. Scientists till this very day still do not know how the Egyptians built the pyramids.
I wonder, did aliens ever visit ancient Egypt?
Wow, look at that giant Egyptian statue. It looks just like you, Jason.
Thanks, Toby. You're a super cool friend. Imagine what the world would look like if I was the pharaoh.
Jason, You are daydreaming. Wake up.